Hey folks, welcome to this week's video. So, as you can hear in the background, we have some science fiction music from um, Hans Zimmer. He did, oh god, I'm totally blanking on it. Interstellar. So if you haven't seen that, watch it. It's amazing. So this week, folks, your main readings are the 6 types of claims. This is our new lesson this week. Before we've learned how to respond to other critics with the I say, they say model. Then we did the problem statements. Now we're going to learn 6 different types of claims, and I'd like you to make one for essay 3. This is our last essay. We'll be writing essay 3 about science fiction or a fairy tale. So pick a science fiction TV show or a science fiction story or a fairy tale TV show or a fairy tale video game. We'll look at some examples in a moment. So let's click on the 6 types of claims and take a look at what I'm talking about. Okay, so here you go. So the 6 types of claims gives you 6 different perspectives, 6 different ways to structure an argument. Let me turn down Hans Zimmer. It's a little bit loud, sorry. Okay, I actually saw him in person at the Grammy Museum. Okay, so a claim of definition is like, okay, how should something best be defined? How should something be classified? So what is a fairy tale in 2022? I've been looking at critics on Google Scholar that define a fairy tale as a video game, right? Because it's interactive, you're on a hero's journey, like that is the modern fairy tale. So that would be a very interesting claim of definition to make. So for this week, you're going to practice making some of these different types of claims: a fact, definition, value, cause, comparison, policy. And then, right, so that's all brainstorming. And then hopefully one of these can be used for your final claim for essay 3, right? Can you make a claim of comparison or policy about a science fiction story or a science fiction TV show or a fairy tale? So I give some great examples in the discussion for this week. So take a look at these great types of claims. And again, we'll be practicing these, and then you're going to choose your best one for essay 3. For example, a claim of policy, right? How should we best teach about technology and ethics? Oh, I think we should look at science fiction, which wrote the book on technology ethics, right? Technology and science fiction has been speculating about the effects in the future of technology for like 150 years. So science fiction is best set to help us understand the ethics of AI or the ethics of nanotechnology or the ethics of space mining, right? Asteroid mining. Because science fiction has been imagining, right, these ethical scenarios for hundreds of years. So they're the best, it's the best genre to understand this. Okay, so that's, right, and I give a lot of these examples in the discussion. So, right, find your favorite type of claim, pick a sci-fi story or a fairy tale. Let's take a little bit more of a look. So I give you a bunch of examples of science fiction. You've got When It Changed, Seedstock. So these are all stories. I would go through those. I would pick one, right? Fall in love with one. And which one do you want to write about for paper 3? When It Changed by Joanna Russ has been described as a lesbian utopia, right? It's about the effects of technology and the pace of change, right? Do we want to go slow or do we want to rush into the future, which is dangerous? Seedstock is about biology and altering our biology. So is The People of Sand and Slag, right? Where we genetically enhance ourselves to be able to live in a polluted environment, right? So instead of like cleaning up the environment, we just get lazy and sloppy and change our genetics to be able to eat like oil and plastic, right? So this People of Sand and Slag is a very interesting commentary on possibly the future that we will be living through. Speech Sounds is about weaponizing diseases, right? Which has already happened. Soft Rains by Bradbury, if you like classic sci-fi. Bradbury, wrote the book. And then Cage of Sand is the most beautiful sci-fi story I think has ever been written. It's about the space program and its negative effects on planet Earth. It's really fascinating. J.D. Ballard is one of the most literary and poetic sci-fi authors you'll ever see. So again, skim through some of these, pick your favorite one, and then find a type of claim that's going to let you say something new about that story or science fiction in general. I give you 2 really interesting readings that can help you. For Essay 3, you have to use a scholarly academic professional source. Teaching Ethics Through Sci-Fi, Therapeutic Use of Fairy Tales are both professional scholarly sources. So let's look at an example of how you could use these. So Teaching Ethics Through Sci-Fi, it looks at nanotechnology and how science fiction has been imagining and warning about nanotechnology for 100 years, right? They were pushing the envelope before we actually had nanotech. So of course we're going to turn to sci-fi that wrote the book on nanotech ethics, right? Even before we had nanotechnology, they were imagining, well, this could go wrong, what could happen? So that would be a great article to apply to another story or another technology, right? Our stories talk about bioengineering or disease engineering, right? Any of these, or AI engineering, right? So how could we use any of these stories to teach AI and ethics to computer scientist students, right? This article only talks about nanotechnology and using sci-fi to teach nanotechnology ethics to engineering students or computer students. What about using one of these AI stories to teach about the ethics of AI, or using one of our bioengineering stories to talk about bioengineering to students who are interested in biology? We've got a lot of students in this class and other classes that are interested in biology. If you're into biology, seed stock, people of sand and slag is your story. And right, can you make an argument, right, about, well, how can I, compare this article to another story, or how can I make a claim of policy, right, about how can we use science fiction in the K through 12 or the K through college classroom to teach about ethics, right? Biological, bioengineering ethics, or AI ethics, or computer science ethics, or digital currency ethics. So if you're interested in this idea, this is your scholarly article, and you can use this to apply it, right, to a different type of story. If you don't like this, right, no worries. You can go another track. We've got the therapeutic use of fairy tales. This is very similar to our hip hop therapy article and paper 1, right? Can you, right, think of a fairy tale that could be used to teach, right, moral lessons to children, or that focus on the parent-child relationship? This article focuses on some Romanian fairy tales. I love it. It's so international. Can you apply, right, Antonia Nithiliseo's ideas to maybe an American fairy tale, or maybe fairy tales on TV, like Once, right, the Once Upon a Time TV show? There's plenty of TV fairy tales. Or, right, I went to Google Scholar, plugged in fairy tale computer game, right? I want examples of modern fairy tales, right? This is a great way to make a new claim, is to look at the new, right? The updated. So if we're talking about fairy tales, I could do computer games, I could do video games, I could do, well, that's all I've got right now. I was like, where do fairy tales appear? So can you make a claim of definition, right? What's a modern fairy tale? Oh, it's a computer game, right? Where you're actually interacting, you're on this quest, you're interacting with magical elements. That's a fairy tale. So what kind of argument can you get out of that? So, plug in, right, fairy tale, computer games, right? You're going to get a lot of interesting articles. Any one of these could serve as your scholarly article for this paper, right? Maybe you play a video game and you want to make an argument about how that is a type of fairy tale, or it has fairy tale elements. So take a look at Google Scholar. If these 2 articles that I give you, if you're not really into them, right, go to Google Scholar. There's lots of other options. Okay, so there's that article. And then lastly, right, I give you again all of these different sci-fi stories. Again, pick one of those. You, you don't have to read them all. Please don't read them all. There's, like 30 pages here. Um, and yeah, so if I was writing about when it changed, right, in this story, they take a really slow approach to progress and development, right? How can this story be used to teach about developmental ethics or progress? Um, to this could be taught to a range of disciplines or students: biology, engineering, computer science, right? This culture just they take it slow, right? They don't want to rush. They don't want to, right, get into nuclear weapons or competition. Um, okay, so that's just this week's overview. If you have any questions, email me. Um, and again, here is your main assignment for this week: is the 6 types of claims practice, where you're gonna practice making the 6 types of claims. And I give you 6 examples here, right? I go through them and I give you an example of each, right? A claim of fact, a claim of definition, right? Like how do we best define modern fairy tales? What is climate change science fiction, right? And then your paper is going to answer that question. So take a look at the examples, and then I'm going to ask you to practice, right? Brainstorm 6 different types of claims: fact, value, comparison, policy, using one of those sci-fi stories or any fairy tale that you want to bring in. Or, if you have sci-fi that you're into, right? That's not one of my official stories, bring that in, right? You don't have to use one of the stories I have if you've already fell in love with a story. I really recommend The Expanse on, I don't know if it's Hulu or Netflix, but it's the most recent sci-fi TV show. It's about space mining and space capitalism. It's fascinating, right? What happens when we start mining, right, in space and the inner planets? And right, you can make a claim of policy about, well, how can we use a story to teach ethics to students who are interested in the extraction business or the mining business, or anyone who works for Elon Musk, right, going into space. He's really getting into that space mining production. So that would be a really interesting claim of policy, using the Expanse TV show to teach all sorts of students about extraction and space mining. Okay, email me if you have any questions, folks. I've been meeting with students. Just send me a time you want to meet if you want to meet by Zoom too. Thank you, folks. Have a great week. I'm always available.